Hey viewers, my name's Cara. We are testing another different microphone. Not a new microphone, I've had it for a while, but I haven't used it for a while. It's an experiment, but I am recording this on the day that I just made my 2024 year in review finally public. I finished editing it earlier this past week, and it's been in early access for my supporters for the last couple of days, but I made it public today, so I'm recording this. I want to talk more about rituals with other people. That's something that I decided to account for my by the numbers section of that year in review video for I think the first time. I think that's the first time that I've attempted to count the rituals that I've done with other people for the year in review. And as I was editing it, I started counting how many rituals have I already done with other people so far in 2025? It's May, and I've already participated in over a dozen rituals with other people, and there's about to be at least another dozen coming up for me in the next month. 2025 so far just already has a lot more ritual things for me, so I want to talk a bit about that. So firstly, if you go back and watch the year in review, it's a little under an hour long for the whole thing, but the last part of it is by the numbers, where I count like how many movies I watched, how many books did I finish reading in that year. And so I went back and estimated rituals. I had not been counting them over time, but as I mentioned in that video, so I'm going to recap a little bit here in case you don't watch it, I went back and estimated based on how many events I know I attended that typically have a certain number of rituals that I always participate in, how many things I went to with my local circle, how many rituals we have per year, for example. So when I attend a witch camp event, it usually depends on how long the event is, but I'm able to estimate, okay, I know this event usually has this many rituals because it's this many days long. This online event has this many rituals to start with, and then sometimes there are optional offerings where other campers will offer a ritual that I may or may not attend. Being able to estimate based on that, knowing how many things I participated in, how many things I went to, how many rituals my local circle usually has, which we tend to do 5 has been our recent number of gatherings, not all of which are rituals, but usually 4 of those are rituals, and 1 is just like a get-together. There's get-together aspect of all of them, but the one we don't particularly do a ritual, and I'll talk in a moment about what I consider a ritual for this purpose. But yeah, so knowing the general amount of rituals that take place at things is how I was able to come to my estimate for last year, which was that I think I attended around 20 rituals with other people in 2024. So going based on these same things, this same estimate, and this same idea of what I'm talking about when I refer to rituals with other people, as I will describe in a moment here, going based off of that same thing, to this point in the middle, late part of May, it's late-ish May, it's the second half of May, up to this point, I have attended 14 rituals so far with other people, and I know that by the end of June, so by the midway point of the year, I am expecting to participate in at least another dozen rituals. So by the first half of 2025, I will have probably participated in 26 rituals with other people already just in half of the year. So now, what am I talking about when I say rituals with other people? Because in my year in review, I mentioned that, a lot of things can be considered a ritual. Your daily routine and personal practice can be considered a ritual of sorts. You might refer to something as like, I have my morning ritual, or I have my bedtime routine, bedtime ritual. Certainly, your morning routine of sitting down with a cup of coffee or a tea and doing a crossword puzzle or reading a certain amount of a book or whatever, doing a short meditation, doing a breathing practice, any of that can absolutely be called a ritual. So I wanted to specify that for this estimate, I'm not counting any of my personal private practices as ritual, and I'm not referring to any of my personal rituals that I would actually do by myself, the ones that include all of the formalities of ritual. I'm not counting those either. So specifically just rituals that I'm doing with other people, and for that I mean ones that are formalized in the sense that they have the steps of ritual being done in the way that my tradition does. So this is not what everybody's rituals look like, but for us, that looks like typically beginning with a land and indigenous acknowledgement, having a grounding, casting sacred space, invoking elements, ancestors and descendants, a variety of mysterious ones and allies that we might be working with, doing some sort of formalized thing as ritual. That can be any number of millions of things, and then formally ending that ritual by reversing the things that we called in. So we say farewell to the mysterious ones and allies, to the ancestors, descendants, to the elements, and we open the circle, reopen that space to formally end that container. And also in my tradition, a lot of the time when we have meetings, when we're planning classes, planning rituals, or just doing community meetings and things like that, we might do those meetings in sacred space. We might be casting a circle or calling in deities to help us with planning. But I'm also not counting those because it would just be, not impossible, because I could go back and look at my calendar to see how many planning meetings did I have scheduled, but I don't always remember which ones we've done kind of a formal container and which ones we've done something less involved. Like sometimes we'll just take 3 breaths or do a short grounding to begin the experience. But just so you know, for the parameters of this estimate, I'm not including any of those planning meetings that we might or might not do within a magical container, specifically referring to formalized ritual with all the steps, bells, whistles that I am doing with other people. So the thing is, with 2025, I'm not expecting that I will also be doing like another almost 30 rituals in the second half of the year. I could estimate at least another 2 with my local circle in the second half of the year, another 3 for another online event that I know I'm attending. But other than that, I don't know for the second half of the year. I think I'm going to be teaching at least 1 more class, and that probably will involve some rituals, but I don't know how many. I don't know yet what that's going to look like. So not counting that, I only know about 5 more rituals that I can expect in the second half of the year. And that's because the majority of the events that I am doing this year are all in this first half of the year. I've already been to 2 camps. There's another one coming up. There's another one, like I said, later in the year. But I've already been to 1 camp in person this year and another camp online. And I don't usually go to that one that I did in person, but I had a specific role that I was going to fulfill. So that's not one that comes up for me every single year. That was my first year going to that one. I'm probably not going to be doing it every year. And the online event that I attended always has 3 rituals at least, but then people had also offered other ones that I attended, so that added a few more than usual. And then, I've already taught a core class this year that involved ritual, and I'm going to be teaching another one soon that, well, not a core class, but I'm going to be teaching another class soon that's all about ritual skills. So we're going to be doing many rituals with that, and then there's the daily ritual every day at camp when I go to that. So this year is just kind of shaping up to be a ritual heavy year, and especially the first half of the year. So we'll see when we get to the end or the beginning of next year and I go back and do kind of an estimate of how many rituals. At least I will already know up to this point. I think I've attended 14 because there were 5 at one event, 4 at another event, 2 with another online group that is also new this year that I've been attending monthly and doing some rituals there. There was 1 local ritual that I got to co-facilitate in person. That was a public ritual for a May Day workers' rights parade. That was really cool, and that's not something that I've usually been doing in previous years, so that's another one. 1 so far with my local circle that was private to the circle, and then 1 with the class that I taught. So that's where I'm coming up with 14 so far. So yeah, and ritual can really look like a lot of things, even though there is a general outline of how my tradition usually does things. Even that looks different. We don't always invoke the same types of things. We don't always invoke all of those things that I listed. And the other things usually exist in some form, like there will be some type of grounding, there will be some type of casting, but what those things look like and feel like and sound like can be entirely different depending on the person who's doing them. There are so many different ways to do it. So it doesn't always look like, and I'm so excited that I can do this now because I have a spinny chair, but it doesn't always look like casting and moving around in the space and, coming back to there. It doesn't always look like that. A good amount of the time it might look like that, and it's really fun to have the spinny chair to be able to do it. It makes it much easier for online rituals. Especially since the last area that I was sitting in, the last place that I lived, my desk was like in a closet. So there was a wall immediately behind me and I couldn't push my chair out far enough to actually spin all the way around. Also, that chair was broken and did not spin smoothly at all. So this is a different chair. This one is much better. But anyway, even just casting the circle can look entirely different. So like every ritual that I do looks pretty different even if the same steps are all there. But yeah, as long as there is some type of formal, like, okay, we're doing a ritual now, not a meeting, not a socializing gathering that we happen to do a grounding practice, but like, we're doing ritual and I'm doing it with other people, that's what I'm counting. And most of them happen within reclaiming events that I'm part of, some of them with local groups, some of them just kind of pop up and I don't know where they're going to come from. So yeah, interesting observation as I was editing that video, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm nearing 20 already this year. There's just been a lot more. And because of that, that might also be partly why I don't feel as much of a need to do as many personal rituals by myself compared to in previous years when I wasn't doing as many rituals with other people. I might have spent a lot more time doing my personal rituals. Like last year, I was doing rituals every season myself as part of my personal theme of the year, which I also talk about in the beginning of that year in review video. This year, I haven't even picked a personal theme yet, and it's already May. Sometimes I skip it. I haven't always had a personal theme of the year since I started doing that about 10 years ago. It's been about 10 years since I started choosing like a personal intention or theme for the year. That's interesting to note. It hasn't been quite 10 years yet. Or, yeah, because next year it'll be 10 years from the number, but that'll actually be the 11th year that I'm doing it. So this would be the 10th year, but I didn't pick one this year. I can think of maybe one or two in the past 10 years that I also didn't choose a specific theme at the start of the year, but I might look back later in the year and say, oh, it seems like this was really my theme, even though I didn't plan for that. So, like, I don't know, maybe this year's theme in a way is community ritual, because I've already been teaching a lot about community and a lot about rituals, or planning it, and, and more of the teaching is actually coming later this year. And just as a friendly reminder, I am really vague about some of the things that I talk about here for my own personal safety. I don't like to talk about specifics, I don't like to talk about specific locations, I don't like to name people for their privacy as well as my own. Some of you watching these videos know me personally, and you know me from some of those local groups and things, and you probably already know this, but I do request that we keep things vague for privacy and safety reasons. But that said, I've been doing a lot of ritual this year, and I guess we'll find out by the next year in review how many rituals with other people I end up doing in all the rest of 2025. Thanks so much for watching and or listening to this video. I will see you next time, whenever that may be. Until then, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye for now.